Hey guys, good Tuesday afternoon to you. How's everybody doing? It's good to be here. It's good to see you all. I hope everybody's well. We are on and live. So, boy howdy, do I have a lot of stuff for you guys today. A lot of cool stuff. One thing that was very, very unexpected. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. I knew it was coming. I just didn't know how cool it would be. Hello, Adam. Hello, Chris. But I want to save... I don't really want to say I want to say the... save the best to last. Hello, Catherine. Over on Facebook. Feel better. Let us know how you're doing. Hop on the Discord. But I want to share some really cool stuff with you guys today. But yeah, I think I'll do the really cool thing. We'll wrap up with it because it's a good place to put it. But let us let's just get right into it, first of all. Hello, Bo. What do you know? Mr. K. Blair, Bo Ganora, the Imperial Ramblings cat himself. Good to see you. But yeah, so let's talk about last night's AD&D game, because it was one for the books. It certainly was. So not having a specific destination in mind. You know, the party's got Castle Greyhawk. They've got some information that they gleaned out of the papers belonging to a wizard there that they might do something with, something about a demonomicon of Igwil. But they weren't really sure what they wanted to do. Some months ago, well, a couple of months ago in terms of play at the tabletop, from their perspective, probably not more than a month in-game, they had an encounter with a mated pair of green dragons that had dug up a section of the marshy forests on the way to Castle Greyhawk and had made a nest. Now, remember yesterday when I was talking about parlay? The dragons were able to speak. I rolled that percentage chance. And one of the players, Aurora Williams actually, made a parlay attempt with the dragons. And these green dragons were very threatening and very fierce. And she said, hey, look, you could probably kill all of us, or many of us rather, but we'll definitely kill at least one of you in the process. And you're young. So unless you want to fight us and die and lose your young, lose your young. I almost thought that I said use your lung. Just back off. And we're just going to go that way. We're just going to head off. So a successful parlay attempt. And the party was able to avoid the dragons. But they knew that the dragons could still be a threat since they had made a nest and they might have young. So they parlayed about what to do amongst themselves. And then they remembered last year, or possibly the year before, when they had slain another dragon and sold its various bits and pieces off in the city, they had given, or they had brought attention to themselves from a woman that said she was the head of a dragon slayers organization. And she gave them basically her business card, which was engraved on a blue dragon scale. So they cashed in that chip, so to speak, and they went to talk to her about what to do to possibly slay the dragon. And she gave them a little bit of information about green dragons. She was an old woman, not really so much into going out and adventuring anymore. But she told them some and provided them some information about green dragons and gave them, well, sold them 1 arrow of dragon slaying. The party has got the money. It's not a difficult thing for them to purchase. So she sold them 1 arrow of dragon slaying. And so they went out to the swamps, the mires, northwest of the city of Greyhawk, on their way to Castle Greyhawk in the world of Greyhawk. It's like the album Bad Company by Bad Company, and has a track on it called Bad Company. Black Sabbath did the same thing. Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath. Anyway, they had the ranger and one other character, I believe it was Jaden, the druid, who went out. They spent a day, and I rolled random encounters to see if they'd run into something. But with Logan, Jeff's ranger character, able to use his cloak of elvenkind and remain 90% unseen, they were able to determine that, yes, the dragon's nest was still there. Back to the city, gave the men at arms, because they knew they wouldn't be of any real use in a fight against a dragon, gave them some time off, and then went out to the nest. Now, just as I had with the magic user, I had a plan for these dragons' attacks based on their reactions. However, remember when we were talking about surprise? Because the party was creeping in a semicircle, they knew that the dragons could breathe chlorine gas and potentially kill lots of characters in a single go if they were all bunched up. They crept up on the dragons and got 3 full segments of surprise. Now, for terms of melee and missile fire, these count as rounds. Some characters moved, some characters began to cast spells. But I rolled to see if the dragons were sleeping. One was, one wasn't. The non-sleeping one was standing on the edge of this massive nest. And Jeff, the ranger, fired the arrow of dragon slaying and hit it and slew the dragon. Its cry of pain as it died awoken its mate, who realized what had happened. It leaped into the air, dived down on the party. Now, they did have 1 man-at-arms with him. The captain of the combined force of men-at-arms, the NPC, he's essentially a 2nd-level character, blew his save versus fear and froze as the dragon dived down on them. Now, we'll get into how dragons work when we start talking about various monster attack routines and so on and etc. But suffice to say, this could have been a Donnybrook. However, they had given the fellow magical chainmail and had cast bark skin on him. So he was pretty well protected and good, because the dragon missed with 2 of its 3 attacks. It neither bit him, or it didn't bite him, and it only clawed him once for a couple of points of damage. It completed its move, turned around, and flew back with the party firing arrows and whatnot. As everyone was spreading out, and protective spells were being cast and so on and etc., the dragon breathed and knocked Jaden down to -2 hit points, killed Endora, and killed Braun, the non-player character. However, they did manage to get a javelin and a spear on it, so it had been damaged already. And Brand the Cleric cast Flame Strike on it, and it blew its saving throw, and that was the end of it. In 3 rounds, they brought down 2 adult green dragons. And that was it. That was all she wrote. So now they have this unbelievable pile of treasure. Oh, and they killed the, they destroyed the dragon eggs. They weren't about to harvest those for any reason, not give evil dragon hatchlings to someone. So after all that prep, and all my prep, the whole fight was over, not counting surprise, in 4 rounds. But it goes to show just exactly how important surprise can actually be. So, yeah, I was pretty shocked. But all their prep time took up most of the evening, so we didn't really... You know, I kind of gave them an idea of the coin that was available there. So they're going to set up their Daern's Instant Fortress, and the following day try and raise dead on both Braun and Endora, the player character that Shelby Lesh runs. And so, yeah, that's the long and short of it. But it goes to show how important surprise can be. If they had had no surprise, and the dragon in question that was up on the edge of the nest had been able to breathe on them or alert the other one, it would have gone completely differently. This is why you should check for surprise. Oh no, Chris, they know exactly what it cost them to level, rest assured. So rest assured. So yeah, the total take-home XP, thanks to the treasure, is well over 100,000, and it'll break out to, I think I figured around 13,400 XP each, which sounds like a lot, but it's really only enough to help a couple of characters level, and not every character was there, so they won't get they won't get XP. Ray and Jeremy, unfortunately, were out. So they won't get the XP from it. They'll benefit from the treasure, to be sure. But that's just how things go. But there's going to be a couple of players leveling, but a lot of people are not, are so high level that 13,000 XP is just a drop in the bucket compared to what they need. So that's how the game went last night, and I was well and truly impressed with their planning and forethought. They didn't just rush in as a phalanx, get breathed on, and die. So good times were had last night outside of Castle Greyhawk. And you guys should have seen it. It was quite the battle. So, that was the Monday night game, and that was Oodles of Fun. And again, you see how important that surprise and winning initiative can be. They lost initiative in two of the rounds and tied initiative in the third round against the dragon. But the surprise round was what enabled them to kill the mate outright. Now, if they hadn't had the arrow of dragon slaying, they might have had to have hit it with flame strike and a bunch of melee attacks and what have you in hopes to bring it down quickly. And that might have worked. But hey, I'm the one that set up the dragon hunting lady, so I've nobody to blame but myself for that. So let's talk then about initiative. We talked a bit about it, but I want to talk about something. Now, I do this a little differently for my table, and this is this is a DM rolling thing. I'm sorry, guys. I'm screwing with a window and what you guys can see. Ties, inflicting damage, and counter reactions. All right. So we're almost out of initiative, but I want to talk about the importance of initiative in terms of spellcasting. But before I get to that, I want to talk about declarations. How many times have you been playing a game and you've got that one player who, during the course of an action, whether you're game mastering or if you've never game mastered, whether you've just played, but there's always the one guy or girl who says, oh, wait, well, then if that's happening, I'm not going to do that. Oh, well, if he's over there, I'm not doing that. Oh, okay, well, if the monster's, moving behind me, I'm not going to do that thing. I was going to attack with my sword, but now I'm not gonna. Whether you have 2 players or a dozen players or anything in between, before you roll initiative, declarations have to be made. You, as the dungeon master, will always know what the monsters are going to do. You should always commit to a plan. Don't be that DM who says, well, I was going to have the magic user do this, and that's what I committed to, but now that I see the party is doing this, I'm going to have them do something different. Unless your monster or NPC that's fighting the party in question has ESP, then yeah, you might adjust things slightly. But don't be that DM. That's a dick move. That is the equivalent of the player who says, oh, well, no, I'm not going to do that then. After initiative's been rolled and they've said the thing that they're going to do. Always use declarations. Go down the line. You got 5 players. You got Bob, Jim, Mary, and Jane. Okay? Bob the fighter, what are you doing? Okay, well, I'm going to set my shield and ready my spear to fend them off. Okay. Jim the cleric, what are you doing? Well, I'm going to cast prayer. Mary the magic user. Well, I'm getting ready to cast sleep. I'm going to cast sleep in this round. Jane the druid. Well, I'm going to cast fairy fire over the targets so we can hit them easier. Then roll initiative. There's no takesies, backsies, and it's particular for spellcasters and for missiles being loosed. Don't let people who've committed to an action change it in the middle of a fight just because they don't like how things are going. If the spell is cast, if you're 4 segments in to a 5-segment casting time spell, don't let the player say, oh, well, no, I won't do that. They can stop doing it. The spell is lost. The spell is ruined. And the person who says, oh, well, I'm not firing arrows. Well, you're firing one, whether you shoot it at the ground, into the ceiling, across a room, whatever, you've expended an arrow. And if you elected to not aim at the monster, that's up to you. Get actions from the players and force them to be committed to them when initiative is rolled. So make sure that you are always getting your players to stick to that. And the reason why is initiative and orders. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about charges, and how that goes outside initiative. In declarations, you might have a player say, I'm drawing my sword and I'm charging. I'm going full Leroy Jenkins and I'm going to charge in. His action, he is running ass over tea kettle with weapon drawn. To attack a foe. So, this and counterattacks against him, and by counterattacks against him, I mean a very set specific thing, happens before initiative. You get declarations. If someone says, I'm going to charge, resolve the charge attack first. It says, it's actually, let's see, it's actually past missile charge. Spellcasting during melee. We'll come back to that. So you factor in the movement rate. All movement at the charge is double base speed. Now, there's no dexterity bonus allowed. You're not dodging and weaving as you're charging. You're going in a straight line. If you don't have a dexterity bonus, you become one rank easier to hit. That is, Armor Class 3 becomes Armor Class 4, Armor Class 6 becomes Armor Class 7, and so on. If you're Armor Class 10, you're already screwed, so there's no penalty. Okay, melee at the end of charge. Initiative is not checked at the end of charge movement. The opponent with a longer weapon reach attacks first. So if you're charging and you have a spear, and your opponent who's receiving your charge has a dagger, your spear goes first. Conversely, if you have the dagger and they've set their spear against your charge, they get to basically gig you on your way in. Only one charge move can be made each turn. Thus, an interval of 9 rounds must take place before a second charge movement can be made, which makes sense. You might be carrying 100 pounds of gear as you go bolting across, and you might, it's going to exhaust you. Now, you do gain +2 to hit when you charge in. You do gain +2 to hit. So you have a bonus of overbearing and striking your opponent with more vigor. So you're -1 to armor class, +2 to hit. Your opponents do not gain +2 to strike you back. So that happens outside of initiative. Now, something else that happens outside initiative is you might have, and we're gonna detail this out, and I'm gonna explain this as best I can. You might have a character who says, hey, I don't want to draw my sword and stab this guy. And I don't want to use the flat of my weapon, or I don't have a sword against this guy. So what to do? You can stand there and do nothing, or you can ball up your fist and you can try and knock the hell out of your opponent. And again, this takes place outside of initiative, which is why we're discussing it now. So let's take a look. And that is, we're going to be looking for non-lethal and weaponless combat. Okay. It is not uncommon for players to be weaponless at some stage of a game, or for better players to wish to attack an opponent barehanded in order to more effectively neutralize that opponent's potential. Whether to subdue or slay when neutralized is another matter. 3 basic attack modes are recommended: pummel, grapple, and overbear. Each method of attack is explained separately, and each has its own tables and modifiers. Guys, before anyone starts clicking the dislike button for me launching into this, I just want to tell you, no version of Dungeons & Dragons has ever had a good weaponless combat system. AD&D is not alone in this. 2nd edition, 3rd edition, I don't know about 4E, 5th edition, no system has had a good grappling and pummeling system. So the variable applicable, and a lot of people skip this, to all pummeling, grappling, and overbearing attacks, you take the number of columns that you normally attack in. Let's say you attack in the 2nd column because you're a fighter 2nd level. Or a fighter 3rd level, rather. Fighters go every 2 levels. To this number, he or she adds the score of a secretly rolled d6, i.e. 1 to 6. The defender does the same, but the die score is that of a d4. The attacker has an advantage. The attacker may use this variable for a bonus to his or her base chance to pummel, grapple, or overbear, or a bonus to the score rolled for a successful pummeling or grappling or overbearing attack. The defender may use this as a penalty or a subtraction to the attacker's base chance to pummel, grapple, overbear, or a penalty to the attacker's pummeling, grappling, or overbearing attack, which has succeeded. So right off the bat, you're having to do something funky. It's not just a simple 2-hit. So determination of first attack initiative is determined by surprise, charging to attack, higher dex, or higher die roll, in that order. So you can use a d6 if you want to determine who's going to attack first in this. Then you have to calculate the base score to hit. Attacker's dexterity per point is +1. Strength over 15 per point is +1. Armor class per point with negative AC being treated as positive by type. Magical protection such as rings, bracers, cloaks do not count as armor class, so ignore them. Encumbrance equals armor class 10. That's an additional +1. Is your opponent slowed? That's +10. Is your opponent already stunned? That's +20. Opponent prone without shield or ready weapon and or helpless. Automatic hit. Opponent base movement over 12 is -5. Opponent hasted, including speed potion, -10. So you factor all those variables. Percentile dice are rolled, and then the score is modified as shown below. The pummeling table is then consulted. So you can modify it this way. This is after you roll percentile dice and after you've already calculated a crap ton of other variables. Attacker strength per point over 12, per 10% over 18. Using wooden butt or mailed fist. Using metal pommel. Opponent slowed. Opponent stunned. Opponent helpless. Active defender per point of dexterity over 14. Employing shield. Leather or padded armor. Chain, ring, scale, or studded mail. Magical cloak or ring. Banded plate or splint mail. Helmet, open-faced. Helmet, nasaled but otherwise open. Helmet, visored or slitted. So you roll percentile dice. You add all these things together. You roll percentile dice. You come over on the on this table, and then you look at the adjusted score. And you look at the pummeling table, and that tells you what happens. Grappling is likewise strange. Grappling is likewise strange. It's a very unusual series of percentages you have to calculate. This is on page 72 if you want to attempt to follow along. Multiply attacker's armor class by 10, ignoring magical devices, bracers, cloaks, rings, etc., but adding 1 for each +1 of magical armor to find a percentage from 100 to 0. Note, the attacker cannot grapple if either or both hands are holding anything. The base chance to grapple is modified as follows. Attacker's dexterity per point, defender's armor protection is, and then they've got some modifiers. Opponent slowed or stunned. Opponent base movement 3 inches faster. Opponent hasted. So you then roll a D100 again, and you come back and you make more modifiers to that D100. And then, assuming you've hit, you come over and you check the grappling table. Overbearing is similarly wonky. Which is, basically you're trying to tackle an opponent. If you wish to try to determine to tackle an opponent. So grappling, pummeling, overbearing, charging, and psionics all take place outside of initiative. Once initiative is rolled, do you guys want me to go over the rules for overbearing? They're they're easy to understand, but they're very convoluted, which is why people aren't crazy about them. But we can come back and talk about them. We can, come back around and take a look at their various nuances and whatnot. But the one thing you should know about grappling, pummeling, and overbearing damage is that 75% of it is subdual damage. That is, it's not damage that will kill a target. So if you do 4 points of damage, 3 points of it are basically healed because it's just minor bruises and stuns and blows to the head and such in a very short amount of time. only 1 point of it is actual potentially lethal damage, which means a really strong character wearing like gauntlets of ogre power or a girdle of giant strength could accidentally kill a frail character when trying to peacefully subdue them. So, now let's talk about spellcasting and initiative, if no one has any questions. Cam says, Superman punch! Remember when I said it's important to get declarations from your players as to what they're going to be doing in the round before initiative is rolled? When spells start being casted is determined by your opponent's initiative roll. Here's what that means. Let's say you have a magic user who's preparing to cast a spell that takes 3 segments to cast. Okay. Magic user says, I'm casting the magical 3-segment spell. Okay. Meanwhile, the enemy's archers are lining up to shoot at the party. And that guy in the blue robes is waving his hands around. The boss says we should shoot at him. Initiative is rolled. The party rolls a 2. The bad guys roll a 3. That 3-segment spell starts casting on the 3rd segment, the opponent's die roll to hit. Chris says, I've ignored weaponless combat for over 30 years. You haven't missed a thing, Chris. At any rate, did you catch that? The character's team's die rolls are the character's opponent's die rolls determine when the party's spells start being cast. Party rolls a 1, bad guys roll a 6. That spell is not going off. That 3-segment spell is not going off until the 9th segment, which means the magic user could be struck by melee, by opponent missile attack, or by opponent magic attack. And if they're hit, they lose the spell. And I think we discussed this regarding spellcasters in the player's handbook, but I want to reiterate this. If you are struck while casting a spell, the spell is irrevocably lost. Your rhythms are damaged, you are interrupted. Or if you are magically held, or slept, or otherwise injured. And the magic user can't say, okay, I'm casting this 3-segment spell. I'm going to take a I'm still moving and casting, or I'm still moving my hands and everything, but I'm going to move over behind this rock and just peek out when I'm ready. No, you stay still and you cast it. Which is why if there's 10 orcs surrounding the magic user and he's like, no problem, I'm going to cast sleep, odds are he's not going to get the spell off. Now, if he does, that's pretty, that's some pretty good favor from the gods right there. So I hope you understand that. The magic user's spell begins casting on the opponent's initiative roll. So in initiative, the order, and this is how I've always done it, this is my interpretation of the Dungeon Master's Guide. I know full well that there is a 30-page document that breaks down what is supposed to be correct first edition AD&D initiative It's just initiative and surprise. It's 30 pages that unpacks initiative and surprise. And honestly, looking at it, sometimes I feel like the people who created it to mock AD&D as not being the simple system that some people think it is. But the simplest way to do it is this: initiative for both sides. After charges, psionics, and unarmed combat. Initiative winners first missile discharge. Initiative losers first missile discharge. And I'll go slowly, so if you guys want to make notes on this, you can. Initiative winners first weapon blows, first melee attacks. Initiative losers first melee attacks. Initiative winners second, if applicable, missile attacks. Initiative losers second, if applicable, missile attacks. And that includes thrown weapons, darts, hand axes, daggers, grenade-like weapons. Anything that has a rate of fire of 2 or greater goes in this segment. Now, it's just that simple. If applicable, second attacks for melee for the winner, second attacks for the loser, and just on down the line. At some point in there, depending on where initiative was rolled, you have winner magic attacks, if applicable, loser magic attacks, if applicable. Now, there's a note I want to make about monsters. And I was mentioning the dragon earlier. Dragons for melee do claw, claw, bite. That is a single attack routine. Remember when we were talking about attack routines yesterday? An attack routine is a series of strung together attacks. When the dragon leaps in, if it wins initiative, it doesn't go claw, and then the party gets a bunch of attacks. And then it goes claw, and if the party gets another bunch of attacks, it does that. Then it goes bite. No. All 3 of its attacks happened in the same segment. Claw, claw, bite. In the case of a troll, it's claw, claw, bite. Now, there's a question. When we look at the monster manual, you will see that some monsters, not all of them are demons or devils or angels or solars or planetars or divas. Some creatures have spell-like abilities. In the case where they are listed as spell-like natural abilities, these are not spell castings. These are things that the monster can do naturally that normally you just treat them as its attack for the round if it's attacking with them. They don't have casting times or what have you. Now, if the effect of the spell, if they're like, it has a spell like it can produce stinking cloud 3 times a day, treat as the spell. In terms of duration and time to propagate out, yes. If the monster entry says they can use the spell gate 3 times daily at will, it says specifically they're using the spell, which means even if it's a natural ability, it can be stopped. It can be interrupted. You can strike Orcus and stop him from gating in a demon. Although if you're fighting Orcus at that point, you know. Chris, you make a good point. Carnivorous ape, claw. If both hit, then rend. Exactly. But if a creature has spell-like natural abilities, they just go. If a creature can use a spell at will, X number of times a day, or X number of times, or just, you know, anytime, all the time, every day, it's still a spell that can be interrupted. Usually that is supernatural in the sense that you're talking about a magical being. You're talking about, again, devils, demons, divas, solars, planetars, some spiritual beings like sylphs, nymphs, and so on. But those things can be interrupted. We'll see when we dive into the monster manual a little bit. So I hope that helps you guys understand my simplified initiative system. It's very easy. It doesn't screw anything up. It's I hit, you hit, I hit, you hit, I hit, you hit. Whether the hitting is missile attacks, melee attacks, or spell attacks. The only thing that's wonky is determining when a spell is started casting. And that's why having your players give you their order of operations that they're going to do is so very, very, very important, because you want them to, and I shouldn't say you want them to, but, you know, there's a consequence for standing in a room full of melee opponents looking to insert sword and stop magic user and trying to cast a spell with no protections versus standing at the back of the party where you're nice and protected. You know, if the party rolled a 6 and the enemy rolled a 1 and the magic user is getting ready to cast a single segment spell, then it may be that the magic user can get that spell off before he can be struck in melee. So consider that. So I hope I've demonstrated the very simple melee system to you guys. If you want to seek out Addict, I think they host it over in Knights and Knaves. And if you're like, oh, Bill has got this all wrong, that's fine. The combat system, as I'm describing it, is what I took away from the Dungeon Master's Guide. People who have, probably with good intent in their heart, but in my opinion, overcomplicated the system over the years, have not made it better by doing what they've done. So just remember, declarations, psionics, charges, unarmed, and then you get into your initiative. Yes, Chris, exactly. That order of operations is why statements of intent must be declared before initiative is rolled. This is a gold star for Chris Kane. Right there. I award you a gold star. Now, it's a short lesson today, but we can put our books away if you like. You guys can feel free to ask me stuff all the time. We do have a Discord. I have mentioned the Discord before. Let me see here. If you want to come join us on the Discord and you're not already over there, come join us on the Discord. And you can ask me questions all about this, about why I insist on doing it wrong. As you guys know, if you've been following me from way back in the beginning, last March, when it seems like the world kind of started to come to an end. Uh-oh. Why isn't... Oh, okay, there it is. You know that this show basically operates on a budget of roughly zero. And I'm not complaining. It is what it is. That's just how things go. I have no producer. I have a co-host, Kyle. He will be here tomorrow, hopefully. But when folks send me stuff, I will answer your question in just a second, Adam. But when folks send me stuff, I love to show it off. I love mail call time. You don't have to send me stuff. And when folks reach out to me and say, you know, I'd like to do something for your show, generally speaking, that never comes to fruition. Folks don't get back to me on that. But a couple of months ago, Rich Lopez over on Facebook said, hey, I have this band, Bards of Greyhawk, and you guys saw when I brought the the budget is minus $10. Yeah, that's correct. You know, I've shown you guys some Bards of Greyhawk swag that Rich sent, but he reached out to me and said, hey man, your show needs a theme song. Would you know, I've got this band, Bards of Greyhawk. Would you like me to make like a theme song for you guys? And I said, I was up front. I said, Rich, I would love to do it, but I have no money. I can't ask you guys to put in the work to make music for me and not be able to pay you. So thank you. If I ever get things rolling, I'll, you know, but they surprised me because they did it anyway. And we worked something out. We worked out a payment system. And so I've been sitting on tenterhooks the last couple of weeks because when they came to, they didn't just say, yeah, okay, you know, we're going to do something in the studio and send it to you and you can use that. They asked me what I wanted, what I liked, what I enjoyed musically, and what I thought would work best for the show. Now, I spent my youthful years working in record stores. I was forced to listen to and enjoy all kinds of music. The first mom and pop record store I was at, I played Pink Floyd and Metallica all day long, and that's all I listened to. I then went and worked in a corporate record store where it was pop music all day long. And when world music was really popular in the early 90s, it'd be an hour or two of world music. And when the boss, who was a country music fan, was in, it was country music. And we would have people come in from all over the place asking for new and different things. And so I came out of my shell and I started listening to it. And I am now at the point where I like all music. There were records by bands that I would not have given the least little bit of notice to just a couple of years before I started working in a horrible corporate music store, Musicland. And my horizons broadened and deepened, and I fell in love with all kinds of music. So people that know me might think, yeah, Bill, he's going to have theme music on his show. I bet it's going to be heavy metal, you know, something sludgy like Black Sabbath, or, you know, somebody else knows me. He's like, oh no, it's going to be cyberpunky. It's going to be like Front 242 or, you know, ultra heavy beat like KMFDM. And other people that know me might say, well, no, he likes Johnny Cash. It's going to be like country music. But the guys came to me and asked me what I thought might be the thing that I would like. And I said, okay, I really like, at the end of the day, I like the Allman Brothers. Like you think about Idlewild South and tracks like Midnight Rider, Led Zeppelin, Black Summer, White Mountainside, stuff like that. I guess you might even call that easy rock or yacht rock or easy listening, but just something nice and mellow and folksy, something you might imagine you'd hear a bard playing in an inn somewhere. I said, that's the kind of sound I want. And so armed with that idea, they went into the studio and they produced a music track for me to use as intro, outro, B-roll music, that sort of thing. Now I gotta figure out how to be a video editor to make, a good intro for your guys. For your guys. For your guys. For you guys. And I have this beautiful piece of music that Rich got me today. And I want to share it with y'all. Now, I hope I can do this right. I hope I don't completely boomer this up. But I want you guys to hear this because it is just fantastic. I'm going to see, let me see. Media source. Well, let me see, create new. What if I do that? All right. Okay. I'm going to try and play this track for you guys. And let's see. When I say music, I'm already excluding it. That is absolutely true. All right, so I'm going to try and play this. This track, and they actually called it. Jeremy over at Bards of Greyhawk made this. He called it Summer Mountains, which I thought was kind of nice. So let me see if this plays. You guys tell me if you can hear this. And it's not. Apparently, it's not. It's not. Okay, that's not working. Damn it. I knew it wasn't going to work. All right. If I click OK. All right, do you guys hear that? Because I can actually not hear that. Your butt, Boganora. So, are you guys hearing music? Just a sketch. So every hero's got to have his theme music, and now I got mine. This sucks because I can't. And right there in chat is one of the geniuses behind this piece of music. Thank you, Rich, for giving proper credits. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think long and hard about the B-roll for this. But this is a phenomenal piece of music. This is almost too good for the bullshit that I do. Like this is something that should be on like an intro to a PBS, or rather an NPR show, something with actual distinction, and not just my fat dorky white ass sitting here on YouTube running my mouth. This is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. I have no words. I can't with the superlatives just keep on talking over it. I'll just let you guys listen. Somebody reach out to Robert Plant and get him in here to do some vocals on top of this one. It's not my song to rename, Adam. So there you guys have it. That is Summer Mountain by Bards of Greyhawk, the theme music for the Crazy Gibberish live stream, broadcast, podcast. And I can't express enough thanks to Jeremy Barber and Rich Denver for I'm Rich Lopez. Sorry, Rich. You're Rich Denver now, for putting together such a phenomenal piece of music for my show. And I think the rather equitable use deal that they offered me is phenomenal. Now I got to be careful. YouTube's seek and destroy algorithm is sometimes so picky that it can jump in and say, "Oh, that's copyrighted music. We're striking your video." Yeah, it's copyrighted to Bards of Greyhawk. Exactly. Did you have their permission? Yes! Well, your copyright struck anyway. Fuck! So, I'll have to be careful about that. So I hope you guys enjoyed hearing that as much as I did this morning when I listened to it for the first time. I'm just going to put that on a playlist. That's just going on a playlist of music that I listen to in the car. You know, I'm just going to put it on my media player. But Bards of Greyhawk are absolutely phenomenal, and Jeremy put together a really just incredible piece of music, because again, I'm not here doing internet blood sport. I'm not here to drive everybody's blood pressure up or anything like that. We're just here to relax and talk about D&D. And honestly, it really brought it home. I was like, I want an Allman Brothers, Led Zeppelin, folksy kind of sound, and I got it from Bards of Greyhawk. In fact, you guys, if you want to check out, let me see here. Do I have... I think I have... Where is it? Here we go. Let me get this link here. So go check out Bards of Greyhawk. Check out their stuff. That is... oh, thank you for being completely screwed up. Facebook Messenger. I'm going to have to type this in manually. Go check them out at that link. I'm going to share this over on the Facebook. They have magnificent music, and I have nothing but good things to say about them. So, from the bottom of my heart, to Rich, to Jeremy, thank you so much for producing a beautiful piece of music, and we're going to see if I can do something beautiful with it and make it a nice little intro section for the show, and maybe even an outro section. Oh, and now I got YouTube telling me YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, view open widget. The Art Garfunkel, Jeremy's. Well, I hope you guys get along better than Simon and Garfunkel do. Okay, so before we go, and before I talk about other shows later this week, I want to answer one question. Adam Black asked this. Adam said, if the opponent wins initiative, then the spell doesn't start its casting till the opponent's next round. No. If the opponent wins initiative, the spell begins casting on the opponent's initiative. Party rolls a 1. I'm the DM. I roll a 2. Your spell that you're casting doesn't start casting until the second segment. Now, there are spells, like prayer, for example, can take an entire round, 10 segments to cast. I think strength is one of those too. Strength may even be a turn. That's not something you want to try and cast in combat. But when you start casting, the length of your spell may go past segment 10, which ends the round. You might still be casting a spell. Let's say it's a 6-segment spell. Party rolls a 2, I roll a 6. It won't be until the second segment of the next round that your spell goes off. So if you lose initiative, everything can be hunky-dory. Only the front lines break. And somebody rushes into melee your cleric, magic user, druid, or illusionist. And in the next round, you're struck by missiles, by melee, by another spell, what have you. That spell that you started casting in round 1 and weren't even going to finish until round 2 is spoiled. So it can go into the next round. But generally speaking, unless you're just screwed by the initiative die, it won't. Or you're casting a really complex spell in the middle of combat, 6th level magic user spell might take 6 segments to cast. I mean, even if the party wins initiative, even if the party rolls a 6 and I roll a 1, it's still going to be the 7th segment before your spell goes off. Which, again, means you could be hit. You could be attacked. It could be damaged. It ain't easy being a magic user. So does that answer your question? And I hope it does, Adam. If it doesn't, hit us up on the Discord. Once again, that Discord is... Let's see if it won't screw this up. It screwed it up. Why you gotta be like that? You know what? I'm just gonna copy the text. See if this works. Yep. If you have any more questions about initiative and initiative order, just hit me up on Discord. Well, I'm going to say 4D10 cheers back to you, Rich. So I got a minimum of 4 cheers for you with a maximum of 40. And thank you so much for sponsoring. And we're gonna be hearing more from Bards of Greyhawk, guys. That I can promise you. So check them out. Check them out online. Bards of Greyhawk. Good music. They've worked with actual talent, not just me. They've worked with like actual real people who've done cool things in role-playing games, including Alan Hammock. Alan and I were kind of joking about that. I was saying I was telling Alan in the interview I did with him that he was like, he's the American Christopher Lee, you know, Christopher Lee, like, you know, he did a song, he did like a metal song and all this historical research and study, and was a Tolkien fan and scholar and that sort of thing. And so Bards of Greyhawk has worked with Alan Hammock. So, you know, Alan is the American Christopher Lee doing music with that. Yes, Chris, that is correct. Each of the attacks takes a segment. Now, one thing I'm going to mention, and I keep one more thing because I got to go. My ass and my back are killing me. That's something you guys can do if people want to contribute to the show. I need a chair. I'm sitting on 2 stacked church pew chairs. You know, you go to churches anymore, and like the sanctuary is an event hall, and they have those stackable blue chairs. That's what I'm sitting on right now. They're not made to be comfortable. The Lord wants you to pay attention, not get comfy. But anyway, but I don't use cantrips. Yeah, I'm an old fuddy-duddy. I don't use cantrips in my games. Cantrips can take like a quarter of a segment, a half of a segment, a fifth of a segment. Gary was just yanking our chain with that nonsense. But anyway, Chris, please, those of you who have any concerns or confusions about initiative, come over to the Discord and ask me over there, and I will be more than happy to clear up anything. I think I tried to cram too much stuff in today. I should have just done a Bards of Greyhawk live stream. I want to have those guys on the live stream, just them, and we're going to talk about old school gaming and music and all kinds of fun stuff. I look forward to a very fruitful, fun relationship with Bards of Greyhawk, being guests on the show, and so on and etc. And I extend my absolute, unmitigated thanks to Jeremy and to Rich, and they made some great music, and you guys should check out other pieces of great music from them. I'm starting to ramble, and not ramble on. I've been this way 10 years to the day. So, you guys have an absolutely stellar afternoon. Ask questions about initiative on the Discord channel, and come by and say hi on the Discord channel. And if you want to get high in the Discord channel, that's entirely your business, because you won't be at my house. But everybody have an absolutely fantastic day. I had to refill my water cup. My mouth is as dry as parchment. So peace. I love you all. Thank you again. Thank you so much to Rich and to Jeremy. Fantastic piece of music. I'll see you all tomorrow. Kyle will be here. We'll get Kyle's opinion on the music. We'll see if Kyle likes it. He better like it. Gosh darn it. It's the intro for the show that he's the co-host on now. So you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow, okay? Peace. Love you all.